It's Mike Messier. Elimination Chamber 2018 is in the books. The camera's on the apparatus. Everything is safe in the world, and we're going to discuss this show. First of all, it's 11:38 p.m. My friend and I were kind of in a, everyone does that little pause routine, which I don't like, but this was special circumstances, so we did do a little pausing. We did jump around. We didn't catch much of the tightest worldwide losing effort to the fucking bar, which I believe was the only match that I incorrectly predicted. I predicted new champions. I thought it might be fun. I thought, in the back of my mind, Sheamus and that supposed injury might be part of this equation, because I do like, Sheamus is a workhorse, Cesaro's a workhorse. I don't know, did Cesaro ever have his fucking teeth fixed? But in any event, point is, they seem to have retained. My prediction of Matt Hardy with, the mild upset, although at this point, what difference does it make? Had a lot of, his match was fun. The opener is interesting that they put the women first, which I think was a pretty smart move to have the women first, because that way you've kind of, done 50-50 between the women's Rumble being the main event, and here the men's Elimination Chamber was the main event, so now it's parity. You could have gone either way. I mean, I think honestly that women's Elimination Chamber could have ended the show. It was very good, and it was pretty much what I predicted, which, with the exception of Bayley actually juicing or blading, she did receive the beating throughout most of the match, was the workhorse of the match, took a lot of punishment, kind of that traditional Arn Anderson spot from the War Games. And she was not victorious. She was turncoated by Sasha once again, which kind of adds to their storyline. And Alexa doing some great flips, kind of taking a page out of Charlotte's book. Speaking of Paige, it was interesting to see her come out for just, 10 seconds and then leave. And I'm just wondering, I guess they just keep Paige on the payroll because they feel guilty that, she was injured on company time. And she does have some name worth and value, and they're releasing a movie. I don't know if her movie Paige is an official WWE movie, or if it probably is, and The Rock, fucking produced it or whatnot. Moving onward. Women's Elimination Chamber, I wouldn't say it was better than I expected, because I did predict that the women are so talented that they could have a good match, which they did. They didn't do bleeding, which, Now, the biggest thing, and this is where, in recent years, I'll admit, I haven't watched every Elimination Chamber match. I remember the first several Elimination Chamber matches were not looking like this, with this platform around the fucking ring. There was a dip between the ring apron and the floor, and it just was a lot more chaotic like that. And this kind of was like doing the thing with when they brought out the big blue cage initially, at WrestleMania 2 or whatever the fuck. Like, it's kind of an adaptation which seemed more for the benefit of the wrestlers than anything. So it's like, as soon as I saw that platform around the cage, and like I said, maybe I missed recent chambers that had that platform, but I don't remember that. So if I'm mistakenly remembering or get my timelines off, but I thought this was the debut of that kind of, WCW style, 1993 ramp thing, all around, and I just didn't like it. But once again, if I had missed the last couple of years of chambers and missed out on that, then that's on me. But if not, if this was a new style of chamber, and the fucking lights, like the lit up corners of it, it's just, we're just getting into video game mode. And I'm sorry, but if you look at like Elimination Chamber 2, the first one was wild and okay, but the second one really had a storyline with Triple H and Goldberg and Nash and Jericho and whoever else was in that thing. I think maybe Shawn, and I don't know if it was Booker T. I can't remember the exact lineup, but those first chambers, man, they were pretty brutal and pretty exhausting. And compare that to this, where it's just like video game mode. And look, I'm sorry, guys. If you're a younger fan, or if you're 15 years old or 20 or 30 watching this chamber tonight, and you think it was great, and I'm insulting your chamber match, you know, and I started to think about me and my videos, and am I this, you know, old-time wrestling fan who has this wealth of knowledge, but am I just annoying or insulting to these younger fans who are trying to enjoy their wrestling, yet somehow they're entranced by what I'm saying? It's not that I'm, like I said, it's not that I hate the wrestling fan or I'm trying to pick on you. It's just I know the breadth of knowledge that I have, and this type of thing, I can just honestly say, I mean, if we're watering down the chamber or homogenizing it to the point where you don't even expect to see blood in the chamber, but yet you'll see Vince McMahon get headbutted by Kevin Owens on a random SmackDown and bleed, what's the point? You know what I mean? I mean, I don't see who's got this rule book that says, you know, Bruce Mitchell, a Twitter buddy of mine from North Carolina, another North Kakalakian in the house, but Bruce kind of said there's no way that they're going to bleed or whatever, but it's like, well, or Will Mahoney saying there's no way these guys are going to, the women will bleed, but why not? I mean, if Randy Orton's going to juice buckets, you know, 2 years ago at SummerSlam, like Randy Orton's bleeding profusely, why can't we have some juice in the goddamn chamber? I mean, you know, there's not a lot of consistency to these supposed rules of PG, you know, family-friendly entertainment. And I guess my point is, and yeah, I'll be another asshole that says Attitude Era is better, but why lose touch with the fact that you're fucking professional wrestling? You know, like, why is there's this, you know, if you want to be a family-friendly company, then don't do wrestling. You know, do something else. But that's all they're good at, meaning WWE. So it's just, they make their bread and butter off of violence. Well, why not just embrace it? I mean, why are we pretending to be something that we're not? Or why are we, you know, whatever the fuck? So, in any event, the Ronda Rousey segment, which I didn't really make any prediction on one way or the other, it was a good segment. I guess I did make a prediction in the wrestling fans group. I predicted that Ronda would be attacked by someone, and I don't know if you'd call that an attack or not. I suppose you could say she was attacked by Stephanie McMahon because she got slapped in the face. So I guess I'm right on that score. Or she got, you know, kind of shoved around by Hunter. And I guess what they're doing, pretty obvious, is they're building, it looks like now Ronda and Kurt Angle, who was suffering from the flu apparently, will be fighting, you know, Triple H and Stephanie at Mania. And guess what? I don't have a problem with it. I think for a soft entrance to put Ronda in a tag team, mixed tag team, we're assuming, with all these people, Shane, Stephanie, and Kurt, as far as a gimmick match or a mixed tag, that's about as good as it's going to get. So I think it will be fun. I have no problem with that. The crowd didn't seem to be too into Ronda, but I kind of was. I thought that if she was kind of nervous or not the best on the mic, it seemed legitimate. It seemed authentic. It seemed that if she was a little bit nervous, that's okay, because why wouldn't you be nervous? I mean, that makes sense to be nervous. You're in a new environment. You're signing a contract. So, you know, my feeling is she used, like a method actor, real live nervousness or apprehension, or maybe a little bit of, gee, is this the right move? Or now I'm really changing my life. She used that to put that into her face, playing those emotions. So I had no problem with the Ronda Rousey segment. I mean, I think I'd rather have her do this match than go right in Mania and face Charlotte, which I guess would be the other logical option, or go in there and just make Alexa Bliss tap out to an armbar. Speaking of Alexa, she did some great flips tonight. Once again, I'll say that. And then the Asuka-Nia Jax match, I think, stole the show. I don't know if it stole the show, but I think it was my favorite match. I've become a real Nia Jax defender recently. Looks like she has lost maybe 15 pounds. And look, I'm someone who, you know, loses weight, gains weight. It's hard to lose weight. So, I mean, give a lot of credit to Nia Jax. We're looking really good. You know, she had a great match. The thing with Asuka, did her leg really get hurt on that splash, or was that selling? And at the end, with Nia and the beatdown, it was a thing where when Asuka left the ring area, it seemed like her left leg, I believe, was kind of flimsily flailing. And I don't know if that was just, you know, Bret Hart level selling of the leg, or if that was a legitimate hurt, injury situation. I don't know. But it was a good match and a good beatdown for Nia. That was kind of the theme of tonight. Like, someone wins, someone loses. And the person who loses, I guess, in Braun and fucking Nia Jax, they get to beat up the person who won. I'm trying to think if I'm skipping anything. I don't know. I don't think I am. I mean, the tag team thing we covered, the fucking Matt Hardy. Men's Elimination Chamber, I might be skipping a match. Men's Elimination Chamber, it just seemed very choreographed, which I guess was the point. But, the case in point for that would be The Miz with those kicks. To me, that series of kicks was... I don't know how to explain it. It was just like he was just waiting and milking, and the audience, which is part of the deal, but all those guys, 4 or 5 guys, Finn, Cena, Roman, Seth, they're all just kind of sitting there on their knees, waiting for a guy to kick them in the chest, and just kind of obnoxiously selling the fact that they can't do anything about it, just so Miz can get his, yes kick spot in, which didn't seem to go over as much as it did before. This Las Vegas crowd is kind of this was Las Vegas, I believe, kind of a crowd that's not like a Philly crowd or a Chicago crowd. It's just, or a Providence, Rhode Island crowd for that matter. Just kind of a crowd that's high rollers or people with money, and they're there, they're enjoying it, but they're not the greatest crowd in the world, let's be honest. That goes back to WCW, Clash of the Champions days. Whenever they would go to Vegas, I'm not picking on the people, but it's just like, it's kind of like the wrestling's not the biggest thing in the world to these people, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to think if I forgot any fucking thing. I don't think I did. I'd say a B+, B. It wasn't great, it wasn't horrible, but I think at the end of the night, me and my buddy looked at each other and we just kind of said, like, we kind of need another option here, because this is about as good as WWE is going to do with this type of show, meaning that it's their, month, 5-6 weeks out before Mania. It's really just what can we put together for Mania? And the answer tonight was basically Stephanie and Triple H and Angle and Ronda. And fucking Roman Reigns. I guess I didn't even mention Roman Reigns winning the thing, but no juice, no blood. And I don't know what to tell you, but I guess fans who aren't used to seeing a lot of blood in matches or think it's barbaric or it could transmit diseases, I get all that, but it's kind of like, well, why even do these fucking structure matches? Like, why have a cage match? Why have a big death fucking Satan's playground match, Hell in the fucking Chamber, Chamber, Elimination Chamber? Why go through that whole fucking thing if there's not at least a possibility of somebody bleeding? Like, if you're just going to have your same choreographed high spots, we got 7 guys in the ring, everyone's got to look pretty good. Why do that if you're not going to have a little blood? Or why put that type of wrestling into a fucking Hell in the Cell or a fucking Elimination Chamber? You see what I'm saying? Like, if you're not going to have blood or the possibility of blood or the possibility of death-defying brutal moves, then why have a brutal match? You know what I mean? And maybe you don't know what I mean, but it's kind of like, why go to a strip club if the girls are going to wear bikinis all night? Like, just don't have a strip club. Like, if you ever see a movie, and I'm not, Mr. Proponent of blood and sex and violence or anything, but you ever see a movie where they go to a strip club, but the strippers don't strip? Like, they just dance around in bikini tops, or like the famous actresses that did, and she keeps her top on or whatever. It's, why do that fucking type of thing in the first place? Why not just have the scene somewhere else in the movie? You know what I mean? Why have an Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, or back when WCW used to do uncensored, same thing. Like, why have these promises, these false promises of blood and guts and violence, if you aren't even going to have that as a possibility for what you're presenting? That's the fucking point. So maybe that point's not well understood. I'm trying to articulate it, and that's why I said, is there a chance, or can we have Bayley bleed? Like, could Bayley take a little razor blade and cut her little forehead open? No offense to Bayley, but I think of all the girls in there, Mandy Rose, Sasha Banks, Mickie James even, although, maybe she could have done it as well. If anyone could have bled for us, it would have been Bayley. Would have built her character. But anyway, that's Mike Messier. I give the show a B. I'll give it a B plus for the talent, for the booking, or for the importance of the show. We probably could have lived without it. That's the other thing I was saying. At least back in the day, we're going way back when, 10, 15 years ago, you'd actually have a feeling, even if it was bullshit, that these pay-per-views were predicted only weeks or months ahead of time. Like, you'd have to have an uncensored pay-per-view, or a WCW in Japan, or some type of special match on a special pay-per-view was in order to fulfill an angle of some kind. And these days it's not like that. These days it's everything's so set far in advance that some asshole was on my fucking asshole over there. Nowadays it's so fucking far in advance that you got the whole lineup of shows, and way in advance, and it's just, I don't know. So I get it because of the fucking whatever the fucks. I mean, there's not a cable company anymore. I mean, they've really diminished the whole point of pay-per-view, which is fine. I don't know if the network is being profitable for WWE or not. I mean, I don't know if has that worked. I mean, that'd have to be to a Meltzer or some other asshole to figure that one out. But it's just Mike Messier saying, I had a good time watching the show. We had fun watching it, everybody. But I think at the end of the night, what me and my friend said to each other was, maybe we'll get an alternative. Like, it's now meeting New Japan or another promotion that will arise from this boringness of wrestling now. And, some people say, oh, you just get New Japan anytime you want on their fucking pay thing or Access TV. But I'm talking about a thing where it's so prevalent, or it's so much a part of the fabric of your life. Or are we just kind of in this WWE dead zone, just suffering through it? And, maybe something will get the national, worldwide attention, whatever the fuck. But anyway, that's it. It was a good show. My life isn't changed one way or the other. Not that it, should be, or maybe it should, but it's just, okay, another night of watching wrestling. And it wasn't horrible, it wasn't great, it was WWE. Maybe that could be their new slogan. It's not horrible, it's not great, it's WWE. I mean, that's what you've brought us to, Vince. I would say that Vince, one last thing, Stephanie and Triple H really, they seem to care more about Ronda Rousey than anybody else. You know what I mean? It's like they're her biggest fans. They're the ones that think this is the biggest deal in the world. And I think the fans, I wouldn't say the fans are totally shitting on it, but it's kind of like they've yet to be impressed. But I do have a feeling Ronda's going to be okay. I think she'll be pretty good. That's it. Blah, 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 blah. And the show could have, obviously, a non-AJ Styles show, but it probably would have helped to have him on there in some capacity. But we're really just in a match, because just having AJ show up does nothing. Anyway, it was a Raw show, and I guess this is the last ever one-brand fucking company pay-per-view until they split the roster again 10 years from now, or whatever the fuck. Mike Messier, enjoy your life.